my number one tip, if I have to just give one tip to pass your CPA exams, is just really going to be like practice questions. Practice questions, practice questions, practice questions. Hey everyone, so I'm making this video just to give some tips and tricks about passing the CPA exam. So my name's Ariel. I'm a certified public accountant in the state of Florida, and I have passed my CPA exam. Woo! I did a couple years ago. It was in 2022. So I know that the standards have changed a little bit. The exams that you take, the exam's been updated a little bit. But despite that, I believe that these tips and tricks are still going to be applicable. And I wanted to share them because I get asked a lot of tips. I get asked a lot for advice on passing the CPA exam. So I wanted to make this video just to kind of talk through some of my process and what I went through. I completely studied while working full-time. I started in public accounting after I finished school, and I did an internship and then became a staff associate, whatever you want to call it, and kind of worked my way up. And so while I was going and working full-time, I started studying for the exam. So the CPA review course that I decided to take I used it with Roger CPA review. Now, there are some number of options, and I can gladly make another video on kind of my comparison for some options like Becker versus Roger versus Wiley versus Surgent versus like Ninja CPA review, things like that. So there are lots of different options out there. I chose Roger because I had some friends that did Roger and they enjoyed it. Also, it was a lot cheaper of an option at the time when I was looking at the course, so that's the one I decided to do. But, and this video isn't like sponsored by them or anything, but that's just what I did. I do think that there are a lot of programs that you can use. Most of the programs are going to go over things like, are going to have basic like lectures. They're going to have a textbook. They might have some type of flashcards, and they're going to have like some type of review bank of questions. And so the first thing I want to say is just test questions. So I think the most important tip is really not to focus as much on doing like notes and reading the textbook and watching the videos, but really just doing questions. Because yes, you want to learn this material, but really, you already went to school, you've already learned accounting, but the tests are their own beast. They're their own thing. And so the way that questions are worded are very, very unique. And so the best way to really practice is just to like hammer the practice questions and like do a practice question. And then when you get it wrong, read through the answers about why you got it wrong. Study that. It's like, okay, this is why I got it wrong. This is what it's right. Then go to the next question and just keep doing that. And then after you've done a whole bunch of study questions, then go back through and hopefully you'll start to actually learn these questions. So like use the study questions and every time you get them wrong to be how you learn. Like learn from the explanations of the incorrect answers and learn that way. When I started doing that, I saw a lot more success. So what I would do is I would still listen. I stopped reading the textbook altogether and I stopped taking notes. Now, of course, everyone has their own study technique. So I'm not saying that notes don't help. I'm not saying that reading doesn't help. But what I would do is I would listen to the videos while I was like cleaning or something. And I would just use it as an overview. My expectation was not to watch videos and to learn the material, be it the videos. It was just to get an overview of the overall concept to refresh my brain from things I had learned in school. Or some things that might have actually been new that I don't ever remember learning, just to get kind of a fresher on the concept. And then I would go to the practice questions and I would do a whole bunch of practice questions, and I wouldn't feel bad if I got the wrong answers, because this is the answering the questions in the self was the studying. So I'd listen to the videos, just briefly, not trying to memorize anything, just to get an overview of the concept. And then I would go through a series of study questions and I would try to learn as I got the answers wrong. And I got most of them wrong in the beginning. And then after I started to feel really good about a topic, then I would try to take another set of questions where I was actually testing myself, where I would say, okay, I'd look at the answers, or I'd look at the questions and say, okay, this is going to be right because of this, and this is going to be wrong because of this, and actually trying to really go through. And then I would actually evaluate myself like, okay, I should at this point, after doing a number of questions wrong and learning, I should know these concepts now. So let's go through the test banks over again, and let's actually really test my knowledge and see if I can get these right without getting them wrong, if that makes sense. And that helped me significantly, because at first when I was taking the test questions, I was like, okay, well, I've read, I've watched, I should get these right. And then when I didn't, I would get discouraged and feel dumb. But it doesn't make you dumb. It's just the way that the questions are worded. So do 2 sets, do 1 set of questions, like go through to learn the topic until you feel like you've learned the topic through the questions. And if you have a good test program, there'll be enough questions where you're not necessarily just repeating and memorizing the answer, but you should at least understand the format of these questions with the topics. And then you should be able to, after you've learned the topic through practicing some of the questions, go back and do like a mini practice test for yourself with new questions that are simpler. And you should hopefully be getting those right. And just keep going back through that over and over and over again. And so that is the number one thing I would say. And when I talk to other people who have passed the exams, I get some really similar answers, that really the test questions are the number one thing that are going to help you. If you really focus in on the questions more than anything else, that is really going to be like the gold standard. So that's going to be the first thing. Now, there are 2 things, right, as part of the CPA exam. There's the multiple choice question, and then there's the simulations. So it's going to be different for everyone, but I really didn't practice the simulations a whole lot during my study until like the week or 2 before I would take an exam, because the simulations are really just going to be expanded versions of your multiple choice questions. Like they're going to be the same topics, but more multi-piece answers. And so I didn't use the simulations to learn the topics. I really use that with the multiple choice. But then a week or 2 before I take the exams, I would practice a series of simulation questions to make sure I was following the format and making sure I was able to apply that. And that's what I did. Because the simulations, to practice those, again, it's all about timing. Like if you have as much time in the world, practice and drill as many simulations as you can. But the simulations will take you a lot longer to do. And so really I used the multiple choice questions to help me, and then a week or 2 before I started doing some of the simulations to get kind of a feel for the format, and that helped me significantly. And so that would be my advice to you. So I passed 3 of my 4 exams on the first try. I did have to retake my audit exam once, which is comical because I was an auditor at the time, and when I took that exam I felt like I did amazing, and then I failed with I think, what did I get, a 72, and I needed, at least a 75 to pass. So then I retook that one, and I got what did I get the second time around? I got an 87, I think. Yeah, I got an 87. So if I'm remembering that correctly, I'd have to go double check because now it's been a couple years, but I believe that is the case. Anyway, I passed for sure the second time after retaking it. But all the other exams I did pass on my first try, so I was happy about that. And really, I just think it goes down to, again, doing those multiple choice questions. And then another thing I realized is that studying for a shorter amount of time is better. At least that's what I saw. A lot of people who took, and I don't necessarily mean study for a week and then just go take your exam, but some people would study for a month or 6 weeks and take their exam, versus someone might take 4 months to study for their exam. It's really hard if you're taking 4 or 5 months to study for an exam to remember close to exam date the stuff that you studied a couple months ago. It's really hard. So in my opinion, 6 to 8 weeks is the sweet spot, because that's a good amount of time to take time to learn the material, but also to still remember the things that you've been learning, at least in my opinion. And the people I noticed that studied for shorter periods of time seem to do a lot better on their exams. Now, of course, maybe the people who just studied shorter, you could argue and say that, well, they just knew the material better. I mean, that's definitely a possibility, but at least in my experience and my observation, that's what I've come across, that, don't spread out your studying too far if you can help it. Try to study and take your exam and be done with it. That would be, some of my advice for you. So again, practice, I can't talk today. So focus really on multiple choice, do some simulations to get the format, but kind of more towards the end. Don't take too long to go through the exams. Make sure you get a good study program. Definitely buy a study program. It's definitely worth every penny. I don't know anyone who's been able to pass with not using any kind of study program whatsoever. Definitely invest, even though I know that they are not cheap. So hopefully some firms will help you pay for that. So if so, that's awesome. If not, I'm sorry. Hopefully it'll be worth it when you're all done. But those are some things. What else? Oh yeah, and then I guess another thing I would just say is like build some review in your routine. So like as you're going through sections and you're doing the multiple choice, you're learning it, and then you're testing yourself and you're moving on to the next section. Like every once in a while, kind of throw in some multiple choice questions from your older sections to try to keep that stuff as fresh as long as possible. It kind of goes back to the idea of not taking too many weeks or months to plan for an exam. Because you'll lose the content. So same type of thing, just kind of make sure if you can, if time allows, to really, make sure you try to repeat some of the old topics as you're learning new topics. And then of course, with working full time, just like some basic study things, like if you can try to stick to a schedule. In my opinion, studying a little bit every day is better than studying a lot, like once or twice a week. So if you can only fit like an hour in a day, great. If you can only fit like 30 minutes in a day, do it. It's better than just taking your Saturday and trying to cram in as much information into your brain all in one day. Good luck with that. And so, trying to find a quiet place to study if possible, depending on, your situation, that may or may not be easy. Studying in the same place. Making sure you're fully awake. Some people like to study in the morning. Some people like to study at night. I would study for like an hour or two after work each day, and that's what worked best for me. Some people like to wake up early and do it. So just get in a routine, and then just like don't give up. Like you can do this. If you do fail your exam, don't beat yourself up too much. Learn from it. Do better the next time. Like just remember what you're fighting for. Remember that you are trying to do this. This is important for your career growth. It's a huge accomplishment. Just for even trying to take your exams is a huge accomplishment. And, you can keep taking them until you succeed. I believe in you. I hope this helps. If you have any other comments or questions regarding the CPA exam, let me know. And I wish you the best of luck.